Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the jargon of earnings calls and give you the clear insights. Today we're looking at Scholar Rock Holdings Q2 2025 update. They're a pre-revenue biotech, getting a lot of attention. And this latest call, well, it really laid out a company at a pretty critical point.
Oh, absolutely. Scholar Rock is, they're in a really pivotal period. You've got this significant regulatory momentum for their main drug, Apitegromab, but then you also have this notable financial miss and some, let's say, scrutiny around manufacturing.
Yeah, it's that classic biotech story, isn't it? Yeah. Huge promise, but some definite near-term hurdles.
Exactly. Hurdles that, anyone following the stock needs to understand.
Okay, let's jump straight into the numbers for Q2 2025. To tell a big part of the story here, Scholar Rock reported a GAAP EPS that's generally accepted accounting principles of negative $7.98. That was a big miss, way below the consensus estimate of negative 66 cents.
Yeah, substantial miss.
And revenue, well, flat at zero as you'd expect at this stage.
Right. And that EPS miss, it wasn't small, like a 48% surprise downwards. The net loss for the quarter came in at $110 million. And if you dig into why, it's mainly two things. R&D expenses were up 47% year over year to $62.4 million.
Okay.
And then general and administrative G&A expenses surged 191%, hitting almost $50 million, $49.7 million.
Wow, 191%. That's huge.
It is. And those G&A costs had some one-time charges baked in, things related to a leadership transition. But also, and this is key, the cost of building out their commercial setup, getting ready for a potential launch.
Right. So they're spending big before the potential approval. Aggressive investment.
Exactly. Pouring resources in ahead of that major decision point.
Now, despite all that spending, they ended Q2 with $295 million in cash and marketable securities. Management says this gives them a runway into 2027.
Which is a decent cushion, considering...
Yeah, but the market reaction, well, it reflected the mix, didn't it? Right. Shares dropped after the announcement. Though you still sense some underlying optimism about the drug itself, it really feels like they're betting big on this upcoming decision.
Oh, completely. It's a signal they're all in on becoming a commercial company, pushing hard before the revenue starts. Mm-hmm. And the market, well, it often doesn't like those short-term spending spikes, even if they're strategic.
Okay, so keeping those numbers in mind, let's unpack what's really driving the Scholar Rock story. And that's Apitegromab, their lead candidate for spinal muscular atrophy, SMA. Mm-hmm. It's currently under FDA priority review. And the big date everyone's watching is the PDUFA target action date, September 22nd, 2025. That's the FDA's deadline to decide on approval.
And what's really interesting here is it's not just the U.S. They're pushing on two fronts. The European Medicines Agency, the EMA, has also validated their application. So you could see an EU approval maybe mid-2026.
A global strategy right out of the gate. That's ambitious for a pre-revenue company.
It is. It shows they're thinking long-term, aiming for major markets from the start. Crucial for the overall vision.
So this isn't just about getting approval letters. They're actually building the machine to sell the drug. They mentioned having a fully trained U.S. customer team already out there.
Yeah, engaging with the treatment centers, the key doctors, the payers.
And Germany is lined up as the first EU launch next year. Seems like a serious operation.
It's a huge shift, becoming what they call a fully integrated commercial biotech. And Apitegromab's angle is that it's potentially first-in-class, a muscle-targeted therapy for SMA. It's designed to be used with the existing standard treatments, the SMN-directed ones.
As an add-on.
Exactly. The data from their Sapphire trial showed real improvements in motor function, statistically significant, clinically meaningful improvements, even in patients already on those standard therapies.
Measured by that Hammersmith scale.
Correct. And this is important because neurologists are seeing that even with current drugs, muscle strength and function are still big unmet needs. So this idea of a dual approach, hitting both SMN and muscle function, is gaining traction.
That clinical data does sound strong, but let's talk about the bit that probably raised some eyebrows.
Yeah.
Manufacturing. Management acknowledged FDA inspection observations at two of their manufacturing partners, their CDMOs.
Right. And one of those was the Catalent Indiana fill-finish site, the one Novo Nordisk recently bought.
Okay, so observations. Does that mean potential delays? That's the immediate question, right?
It is. But management seemed keen to frame it as, well, pretty standard. They pointed out that GXP inspections, good manufacturing practices type inspections, often result in observations, like over 70% in 2024 did.
Okay.
And they mentioned having a constructive late cycle meeting with the FDA. The FDA apparently indicated they're still working towards that September PDUFA date.
And the launch supply.
They specifically said launch supply is manufactured, filled, and ready to go, and that Novo submitted a robust response for the Catalent site observations. They're working on the response for the second site, too.
Management sounds confident, which is good. But, how often do these standard observations actually cause hiccups?
Yeah.
Especially for priority review. So it's a bit of a wild card.
It can be a wild card, no doubt. And the market picks up on that uncertainty. Even if they're standard, resolving them takes time, resources, potentially. But the fact they had that late cycle meeting after the observations is probably a positive sign, suggests active engagement.
Right.
And confirming the launch supply is ready, that does de-risk the immediate commercial side if they get the approval on time. So yeah, it adds complexity, maybe a resource drain, but maybe not a showstopper. That's the hope, anyway.
Got it. So they're building this commercial engine for Apitegromab, hence the big G&A spend. But are they just focused on SMA, or is there a bigger picture here to justify that investment?
Good point. No, they're definitely looking beyond SMA. They're expanding that whole Myostatin platform. This is where the bigger vision comes in. They have that phase 2 EMBRAZE study, adding Apitegromab to tirzepatide, a GLP-1 drug.
Like for weight loss or diabetes?
Exactly. And the study showed it helped preserve lean mass about 4.2 pounds over 24 weeks. So this hints at a platform for preserving muscle in, say, cardiometabolic conditions, much bigger markets.
Okay, so that broadens the potential quite a bit, not just a rare disease play.
Precisely. It positions them potentially in much larger areas, maybe opens doors for partnerships later on.
Makes sense. What else is cooking in the pipeline then?
Well, it seems pretty active. They plan to start another study for Apitegromab in a different neuromuscular condition by the end of this year, 2025. Shows they believe it works more broadly on muscle. Plus, they've got a preclinical candidate, SRRK 439, another myostatin inhibitor. That's on track for an IND filing investigational new drug in the second half of 2025. That's sort of the next generation.
So internal innovation continuing.
Right. And they're also starting a phase 2 trial called OPEAL for Apitegromab in very young kids with SMA, under 2 years old. That's starting this quarter, Q3 2025, aiming to support muscle development really early on, expands the potential use again.
Okay, circling back to the finances for a sec.
Yeah.
That $295 million cash pile, how are they planning to make that last into 2027 with all this activity?
Good question. They expect to draw down another $50 million from a debt facility, and they mentioned about $16 million coming in from warrant exercises by year end, so that helps bolster the cash position and extend that runway.
And the priority review voucher.
Yes, the PRV. They expect to sell that after approval. PRVs can fetch a pretty penny. It's a valuable, non-dilutive way to get more cash. Basically, another company buys it to speed up their own drug review. Management did say a PDUFA delay wouldn't kill the PRV itself, just push back when they can monetize it.
Okay, so managing the cash carefully. What about market access? Are payers likely to cover this if it's approved, especially as an add-on therapy?
Seems positive so far. They anticipate a broad label for patients 2 years and older based on the SAPPHIRE data. And they said their talks with U.S. payers have been good. Apparently, over 20% of SMA patients already get more than one SMA therapy.
Oh, interesting. So there's precedent for combination use.
Exactly. It suggests payers understand the unmet need and are willing to cover combos if the data shows added benefit, which Scholar Rock argues theirs does.
So for you, the listener, putting it all together, this Q2 call showed strong scientific and regulatory progress, but yes, offset by higher spending and those manufacturing questions. The market certainly reacted to that mix. It feels like a really high-stakes moment.
It absolutely is. That September 22nd PDUFA date is everything right now. It's the immediate critical catalyst. A clean approval, broad label, that would be transformative, sets them up for the U.S. launch, then Europe in 26. But any unexpected issues from those CDMO observations, even if management is confident, could create volatility, could potentially delay things. The market will be watching not just if it's approved, but the label details and any lingering manufacturing concerns.
Right. And that long-term vision becoming a global biotech powerhouse that really rests on Apitegromab succeeding big time and then successfully expanding that whole myostatin platform beyond SMA.
Yeah. Execution is key now on manufacturing, on market access, on getting the label right. The science looks promising, but now it's about turning that into a commercial reality. The SMA opportunity alone could be big, but it's that broader platform potential that really fuels the powerhouse ambition.
All right, let's shift gears. It's time for our This Is Not Financial Advice segment. We kick around some, let's say, outrageous but plausible trade ideas based on the situation. Given Scholar Rock, you've got this binary event looming, but also this interesting long-term platform story.
Yeah.
What kind of ideas come to mind? For the more adventurous listeners, of course.
Okay, well, one way to play the immediate catalyst, the PDUFA date, is something like the long strangle on SRRK options. Probably for the September expiration, maybe with a slight skew towards the calls.
Explain the strangle part for folks less familiar.
Sure. A long strangle means buying both an out-of-the-money call option and an out-of-the-money put option. Same expiration. You're basically betting on a big stock price move, but you're not sure which way.
Up or down just needs to be significant.
Exactly. So clean approval, broad label, stock could jump, making the calls valuable. PDUFA delay, restrictive label because of manufacturing, stock could drop, making the puts valuable. The slight call skew just reflects maybe a bit more optimism based on analyst sentiment and the potential upside from a successful launch. It's definitely a high volatility play.
Betting on the fireworks, essentially. Okay, what about something longer term for those who believe in the platform beyond just this PDUFA date?
Right. If you have more conviction in that broader myostatin story, maybe look towards a convertible bond arbitrage strategy. If Scholar Rock issues convertible debt, say post-approval, to fund the pipeline build-out.
How does that work?
Well, convertible bond arb typically involves buying the convertible bond and simultaneously shorting the underlying stock. The idea is to capture the bond's yield and its potential upside if the stock rises enough to make converting the bond profitable, while the short stock position aims to hedge against downside risk.
So if Apitegromab launches well, drives revenue, stock goes up.
The conversion feature becomes valuable. But the bond itself offers some yield and downside protection if maybe other pipeline stuff hits delays. It's a more complex strategy, obviously, but it's a way to play that multi-year growth story with perhaps a bit less direct stock risk. Assumes they execute on expanding beyond SMA, though.
Interesting ideas. Again, definitely not financial advice, just thought experiments.
Absolutely. High-risk, complex strategies.
Okay, so wrapping this up. Scholar Rock clearly at a crucial point. Q2 showed heavy investment in the future, real regulatory momentum, but also those near-term challenges, spending and manufacturing scrutiny.
Yeah, that September 22nd PDUFA date is just paramount. It really sets the stage for everything that comes next. What you, the listener, should focus on now is execution. How well does management handle the launch, resolve those regulatory questions, and keep expanding that pipeline? What's your biggest takeaway thinking about their strategy? How do you personally weigh those risks versus that long-term potential?
We hope this deep dive into Scholar Rock's Q2 call gave you some valuable food for thought. Remember, this is all for educational purposes, not investment advice. Always do your own research. Feel free to share your own thoughts and analysis on our forum. We'd love to hear them.